Hi, everyone. This is Mac Pierre-Louis, mediator with instantmediations.com. And I'm here with Natalia. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Natalia instantmediations.com as well.
And we are here with...
Yeah, my name is Giuseppe Leone. My website is Virtual Mediation Lab, online mediation via Zoom made simple.
Awesome. Yes, we're with Giuseppe to do our interview. And he had done an interview with us last week, and so we're just returning the favor to introduce him to a lot of our followers and get him published on our site. And so at this time, we're going to just do a few minutes where Natalia will introduce him, and I will go into a recent article that he had published for mediate.com, where he talks about online mediation. Right, Natalia?
So we are absolutely happy and thrilled to have you here with us, knowing how great your experience with the online mediation is and how you mastered Zoom tool for online mediation. So could you please tell us a few words about how it all started, what your experience with mediation and online mediation is?
All right. Well, I attended my first 40-hour mediation training in 1997 here in Hawaii for a community mediation center. It was called and is called the Mediation Center of the Pacific. And probably because we are here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, I always got interested in online mediation. So a year later, actually in 1998 or 1999, I signed up for a project which is called Square Trade. It was a company called Square Trade, which helped eBay buyers and sellers settle their disputes online. So there was a panel of online mediators around the world, and I was one of those mediators. And I realized that even though all communications were by email, by text, I could settle on average the same percentage of cases that I could settle in small claims courts. So I realized that probably whether you're mediating in person or online was not that much different, as long as you knew what you were doing. Years later, Skype announced a group version. I don't recall the exact name, but suddenly there was a group version which allowed people to have a Skype video conference as a group. And I immediately saw the opportunity for mediators around the world to practice and improve their mediation skills online with Skype. And that was in 2010, I think. And that experience, which was very useful because I ran hundreds of simulations with mediators around the world, was very instructive, because our simulation consists of two parts, 45-minute simulation and 50-minute debriefing. And during the debriefing, not only the mediator discovered that the way he or she thought the mediation went was sometimes different than the way that the parties thought that the mediation went. But when we asked questions like, Natalia, why did you do what you did? Most of the times the answer was, because that's what I learned during the training. There was no other explanation. That's what I learned during the training, or that's what I usually do. That was the only explanation. So I thought, well, I think that these simulations can help mediators a lot to become aware of their strengths and their weaknesses as well. So I did that, and then out of the blue, in 2013, I heard from Colin Rule, who is a pioneer in online dispute resolution, that there was a software called Zoom. Somebody called me up. I think at that time he was the marketing manager, something like that. It was a very small company. And he said, Giuseppe, I know that you're running the simulations with Skype. I said, yes. And the first thing he said, well, I know this Skype is very good, but would you like to give it a shot would you like to take a closer look at Zoom? And I said, Zoom? Never heard about it. And so, yeah, I know. We are a small company. We're starting now, but it would be great. And I started, and since then I've been using Zoom. As a matter of fact, in 2014, I became one of their case studies because they're just beginning, and they didn't have that many people using Zoom at that time, and I was one of them. And since then, I'll be using Zoom. And
okay, so let me ask you another question. What made it? Because you started then with some, let's say, asynchronic mediation, then went on Skype, but then you transferred yourself entirely into Zoom. So what made for you Zoom such a good tool for online mediation?
I was impressed by the quality of their video and audio, because with Skype, I had all kinds of problems. I still remember there was a terrible connection with a mediator in Europe, and every time, I was anxious because I expected something to go wrong. With Zoom, everything was easy. However, at the beginning, there was not even a possibility of having any kind of private meeting. So I asked the Zoom technical staff to implement a function that was called put attendee on hold, which now has become, I think now has become the waiting room. So that was because I asked them to implement the feature, put attendee on hold, which allowed the mediator to have private meeting. But until at the beginning, there was no attendee on hold.
Okay, so your experience with Zoom dates back to when? As of when you started using Zoom?
2013, so 7 years ago.
And I understand that it is one of the things that made you write these interesting articles that we will be discussing today, but
That's
also you set up a special group on LinkedIn. Tell us something more about the group. When did you set it up and how many members are there?
Okay, I think the moment, well, I started a month ago on May 6, 2020, of course. So it was a month ago, and we have already, I think, 220 members from, I think, 34 or 35 countries. The whole idea is that I think that by now there are hundreds of mediators who are using Zoom for their for online, and I think that everybody will benefit if all these mediators around the world could share tips, best practices, news, success stories, lessons learned. Because I think that, as a matter of fact, the tagline of my LinkedIn group, which is called Online Mediation via Zoom, is learn more, practice, share. So that's the whole point.
And for whom was the group designed, and who can join?
Well, anybody can join. Well, anybody interested in mediation can join. When I say interested in mediation, by the way, I also mean attorneys, because I think it's good if attorneys know how online mediation works, because the more they know, the more they can help their clients. So even if you're not a mediator, I think it's a good idea if you know what's going on in the Zoom world, okay? And for example, just to give an idea, now I'm still trying to find someone who is using a different platform other than Zoom, because I think that an online mediator should be prepared to explain to their clients why we think that Zoom is a better choice than, say, Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx and so on. Unfortunately, as of today, I'm not be able to find anybody who use those platforms, or at least anybody who uses those platforms and is willing to share his or her experience with other online mediators.
But the article we are going to discuss with you today was not published on your group. It was published on mediate.com, and Mark has some questions about it to you.
Sure.
Okay. So I know. So first, you're an author on media.com. Is that correct?
Yes, I've written a few articles. I think the one was in 2014, how our mediators around the world could improve their mediation skills via Skype.
Okay. And so we were able to track it down here, and this was recent from May 2020.
Right.
And you were answering the question, what do I definitely need to become an accomplished online mediator?
Right.
If we could just go through some of your points.
Sure.
Uh, the first one being that you state mediation experience and skills. Could you
Right.
tell us a little bit why that is definitely one of the things that they need?
Sure. Well, I put that first because I think that a successful online mediation is 95%. It depends 95% on the mediator's skills and experience, which takes years to gain. The online part takes only a few, I don't want to say hours, but a few days to learn. So you can learn what to click with Zoom in a couple of days, okay? But to become a good mediator, to learn how to establish rapport with the parties, how to gain their trust, how to help them feel comfortable with you, telling you things that perhaps they were not even aware of, okay? That takes a lot of training, a lot of experience. Even knowing one is better for you as a mediator to just shut up and listen, that takes experience. So in my view, the ratio dispute resolution skills and online is 95% to 5%. So that's why I think that if you are a good mediator, okay, you know your job, you know what you're doing, you understand that mediation has a lot of components, human nature, negotiation, depends on your mediation style, then it's easy to become an online mediator. On the contrary, if you do not have sufficient mediation experience, I think that when you try to mediate online with your clients, it really doesn't work. And the parties can sense immediately whether you know what you're doing, not only from the mediation perspective, but from the online setting perspective as well. And that's the reason why the second the second factor in my article is to know Zoom inside out.
Right.
And when I say Zoom inside out, it means that not only you know how to handle it, but you're also aware that even though you have a computer, the parties may not have a computer. They may have an iPad, they may have an iPhone, and so on. So you need to be to understand how the participants participate in online mediation and be able to help them. And so, for example, I think that ideally, a mediator should be familiar with all these platforms, or at least know where to find some video tutorials that the mediator can send to their clients and say, well, if you plan to use iPad, this is what you need to do. If you use iPhone, this is what you need to do. So the Zoom is something that the mediator should know inside out and then forget about it. Because the focus, I think, should be on the mediation. That's what the mediation clients pay for and expect you to do. Help them resolve their dispute. They couldn't care less of the online aspect. They didn't pay you, to have an amazing experience online. They just want their divorce resolved or their business dispute resolved.
Gotcha. So thank you for that. So you got to be a good mediator in person in real life, but you also got to know Zoom inside and out. And the third thing you wrote is be 100% ready, be prepared.
Okay. Right. The third point is because I think that when you're online, there are many things that can go wrong, right? a power outage, an internet outage, people get disconnected. I mean, we still have some problems sometimes by phone, right? So you're on the phone and the line drops. Well, that obviously can happen online as well. And there is nothing wrong if it happens, as long as you know how to handle it. Because I think that our clients expect us to know how to prevent problems from happening, okay? And second, how to handle any situation. For example, a typical situation is when you invite your clients 1 week or 10 days in advance and they lose your instructions. So they call you up and either they don't remember the password or they can't find the email. They say, well, Mac, I thought we had online mediation today. Yeah, I sent it 10 days ago. So what do? Do you argue with them? Probably not. It's not a good idea. So you better know how to help them, even though they lost or they can't find their instructions. So a mediator, I think, should be fully prepared, because if you are prepared, okay, you're calm, you're confident, and the participants can sense your confidence, your sense of calmness. So the participants should feel in good hands. So they should feel that you know what you're doing and there's nothing to worry about.
Gotcha, thank you for that. And the last point that you had about things that the mediator doing mediations online should definitely know is to keep an open mind. Can you go into that?
Sure. When I say keep an open mind, I mean that many mediators try to do online exactly what they used to do in person, right? For example, shadow diplomacy, you know, which can be exhausting. Okay. Now, when you're online, I think that there is an extra element of stress. Not only people who have a dispute are stressed and anxious because they don't know what the outcome of mediation will be. But when they are online, you're dealing with a new environment. And we cannot take for granted that everybody is used to sit in front of the computer for hours. You know, there are carpenters, there are people who fix cars, okay? So I think that a mediator should be able to accommodate the parties' experience online and ask them, for example, and tell them, if at any moment you feel tired, you know, you need a break, no problem. I think that also requires a certain amount of humbleness from the mediator. You know, let's do what works well for you, because what works well for you works for me. I have to say that some mediators don't see the way. They say, well, you hired me, I will handle it the way I was been doing for years. That's it. So that's that's why I wrote about open mind.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for that. And I think those explanations make a whole lot of sense. And I've learned something. So that's basically what we wanted to do today, which was, again, introduce you and talk about this article. So we appreciate your time very much. And is there anything else that you wanted to add before we close out?
No, the only thing that probably I could add is that online mediation opens up a number of new opportunities for mediators, because you're not confined, you know, to your geographic area any longer. So if you are a good mediator and you find a niche market, you should be able to to offer your services outside your city or outside your country, even though being a good mediator is only the beginning. The second step, which is tricky as well, is how do people know that you are a good mediator? How do they find you? But that's a different ballgame. But I think it's equally important.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And that's one of the things that Natalia and I are trying to break into as well, which is using our platform that we've built, instantmediations.com, to help potential clients be able to find mediators wherever they might be. So yeah, there's more to come on that, and people are definitely welcome to go over to the website and check it out. But this video, we'll post it on our YouTube channel. And so we're, put some shout outs out there. And if you wanted to give people your website one more time, as well as your Twitter, because I know you're on Twitter as well, I believe.
Right. My Twitter account is Mediation Skills.
Okay.
Okay. My website is virtualmediationlab.com. Online mediation via Zoom made simple. I like simple things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Natalia.
And we believe that mediation with Zoom is simple. Your hints and tips are simple, but very convincing. Thank you so much for being with us and spreading this entire wisdom. And yeah, we'll be happy to catch up again.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.